and I will start reading it. Sau Chavinim Varazyam Nabiu Kain Yubiu Maraumi Chashmei Biocha Vaedmano Menacha E Mons Dazdum Vaedum Dainabish Aiviasto Ahum Ye Vankeosh Mananko Asha ve anyu ainim vianko tatsi hoi hoshnam anankat. So in this verse, actually in this 17th song, Zarathustra is kind of giving a finale to his songs. He talks to all the people that are significant to him, and he discusses marriage and to his daughter, and it speaks to the bridegrooms, and he gives them his advice. So this is the particular song we picked. And the translations, first one, Dr. Jafari, these are all from Zarathustra. These words I speak to the charming brides and to you, bridegrooms. Do bear in mind, comprehend them with your conscience, master the life which belongs to good mind. May you each win the other through righteousness. It will indeed be a good acquisition for each of you. Then we have Khosrow Khazai's translation. Thus now I, Zarathustra, tell you these words, O new brides and O new grooms. Listen to my advice with wisdom. Learn and comprehend with conscience and apply it. Live your life always with good thoughts, and each one of you lead the other with righteousness, so you may live a life of happiness and fulfillment. And the last one, DJ Irani's translation. These words I do address to you maidens who are being married. These counsels do I give to you, bridegrooms. Heed them in your mind and lay them to heart. Let each, let each cherish the other with righteousness, then surely the reward of a happy life. And this is the summary where Zarathustra addressing all the charming brides and bridegroom. He wants them to fully understand what he advises them. He wants them to lead a life of wisdom and giving the best equality. He prays that each of them win the other through righteous and through love and life. A happy life of love based on wisdom and truth is truly a rich reward. With real happy married life, be true to your partner. I personally think it's fascinating that 3,700 years ago, he spoke of the brides and grooms in equal terms. There was no distinction whether they were male or female. So that I find very interesting for that time. Let me see, I can make this bigger. I'll figure it out. You start, Mitra.
So good morning, good afternoon to all. Hope you had a good weekend starting. I'm happy to be here, and this is such a happy song of Zarathustra. Of course, all of the songs are happy. It's always talking about happiness, which is the goal of life in a righteous way. So my first question to all of you is, how many of you have participated in a wedding ceremony? If you raise your hand. So either yours or your friends, or you've gone here and there and you've witnessed different ceremonies. So almost all of you, has anybody not ever been in a ceremony, participating in a ceremony to watch what is said and what is done? Anybody? Okay. So I would like to have you all talk about that at some point. I just want to share my experience. About 25 years ago, I participated in a wedding ceremony. It was a Greek Orthodox wedding. And it was fascinating. In this ceremony, when we participated, it was a family friend that we went to. The groom was Zoroastrian and the bride was Greek Orthodox. And half of the church was, Zatushtis like us, and Persian Zoroastrian, and the other half were, Greek Orthodox. And it was fascinating because our people, we were just like shocked. We couldn't believe what we were seeing. It was beautiful. It was fascinating. However, it was so different. And at that time, I remember that I was thinking, because I'm a Zoroastrian, I was born and raised. I've been to many Zoroastrian weddings. And I never thought that I could see something that is so opposite of our ceremonies. And what was fascinating was that the priests, or the clergy, just like our Mobats, when they were performing, they never asked the bride and the groom a question. It was not about them participating. The clergy, I don't know what they call him, the priest, the high priest, he did the ceremony. He went on and on and on. It was beautiful. It was songs, very musical, very long. And at the end, we were waiting for the bride and the groom to say yes, or yes, I love this person, whatever, and put the rings on. That didn't happen. What happened was that the high priest did the ceremony in their own language. We didn't understand what they were saying. And apparently he just made them husband and wife. And he put the rings on them. So, and then I was thinking, so they had no say-so in the ceremony. And that is a huge difference versus, like Fariba said, 4,000 years ago, Zarathustra, he was the high priest back then, because he's kind of performing the ceremony of his daughter to the groom. And then he's telling them, he's advising them to be who they can be, to be righteous, to supersede each other in doing the right thing. Not what we think about, be kind to each other, be fair to each other, none of that. He's just saying, be righteous. So in a way, when you think about it, he's putting that on them. You need to find out how to be righteous to each other, how to supersede in that task, how to be better than the other person. It's not a prescriptive message. It is just a suggestion. Listen, this is the first thing he says to both of them, the bride and the groom, to listen, but listen with your good mind. Don't just hear what I say. You actually listen. When you listen to something, you have to analyze it. You have to think about it. You have to put it in action. That is a wise way of listening. And then after that, in that one message, he says, use your good mind, be righteous, end point is happy life. So it's all up to you. Now, today's ceremony, whatever kind of ceremony you go to, when two people become husband and wife or partners or whatever, that when they commit to each other, they talk about, in American version, it used to be to obey, to honor, all that. So it specifies the things that you're supposed to do. 4,000 years ago, Zarathustra thought human beings are better than that. You can make up your mind. You can find your own way. So all you need to know is that if you are more righteous than your partner, happy life will follow. So that's a huge difference to me. I mean, all ceremonies are nice, all ceremonies are, happy, but the way of thinking about human mind and human life is different. So this is why this verse is very important, I think, that from the get-go, this ideology, Zarathustra's way of thinking, is telling us, first of all, we're equal, man and woman, because he doesn't differentiate. He's addressing both people, same message. He doesn't say you're less, you're more, you can be better. There is no such a thing like that. So that's the first message, that everybody is equal, gender equality. Then he's assuming that people that he's talking to are intelligent and can process and can make up their own mind, and they can become righteous based on what they do. because being righteous is not just being good. I was just discussing it with a friend of mine, and sometimes to be righteous in any relationship is to be cruel, is to be honest, is to just have a fight, is to stop that relationship. That is the righteous thing to do. It's not always doing the happy thing. To do the right thing for the right reason, which is asha, because it's the right thing to do, it takes a lot of brain power to figure out what is right at that moment in that situation. And that's what he's talking about. He's not saying do the good thing, do the kind thing, do, all these good characteristics. He's saying supersede each other in righteousness. And that is hard work. And hopefully those who do, sometimes relationships end. You get a divorce, you part company, and that's the right thing to do. And that's what he's saying. Do the right thing. If you're the smarter one, if you figure out stuff faster than the other person, that this relationship has no end, which we see around the world, human culture, not every relationship that starts from a very high point ends at the high point. But sometimes it has to end, and that's the right thing to do. Sometimes you have to walk away. That's the right thing to do. Sometimes you have to be strong and say no or change. That's the right thing to do. So the focus is on the righteous act. He never says anything else but that. And that is the power of this message, that you figure out what's right for you. And you figure out when you do the right thing, does it end up making you happy? Then you do it. It's not just about doing stuff because you were told. There is no telling. There is no prescription. It's up to you. So in one of the translations also, it says that comprehend with conscience. Listen to my words and then comprehend it with your conscience. Da'ena in Persian is din. And in English, it translates to good conscience. And a lot of texts that talk about Avesta and the Gathas, they call Zoroastrians Behdin. That's the Persian word, the religion of good conscience. And in this one verse, he also talks about conscience. You do everything with your conscience because you have it, because you can get help from it, because it can come to your aid when you use your good conscience. And that's another difference between this message and a lot of other ceremonies that you go, do you accept this person to be your lawfully wedded husband, wife, and to have and to hold in sickness? All of these, in my opinion, is prescriptive. So it's telling you in health, help them. In sickness, be there. In sorrow, feel it. In happiness, share it. But somehow Zarathustra thought it's not necessary. All you have to focus on, instead of all these little things that there are so many of, all these feelings, all these things to do, focus on what's the right thing to do. Once you do that, then happiness will follow eventually. And that should be the goal. So I think that's a great message. It's very beautiful. And even when I got married, everything is done in Persian, and it says that do you accept this man to be your husband? Do you accept this woman to be your wife? And then it says to be in Persian is Tani or Ravani, to be the same soul, within the same body, but then to do the right thing by it. So having said all that, I would like to have your opinions about all the ceremonies that you have watched. If you've ever been to a Zoroastrian wedding, and if you've ever heard anything like this in the ceremonies, I would be more than happy to listen and to see what your experiences are. Who wants to go first? Come on, raise your hand or I'll raise it for you. Kaveh, I think you're the last one that I know that got married. You're kind of like 6-7 years newlyweds.
Yeah, 7 years. When we got married, both of us were pretty secular. This was a very secular wedding. We got married by a priest. It was in St. Lucia, and the priest was a a St. Lucian man. And it was pretty simple. A lot of the ceremony was us saying our vows to each other. But what I remember most from the priest's words, he looked at me like very intently and made sure to communicate to me that I need to listen to my wife, and it really rang true, and it still does.
That's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
Many occasions, it eliminates a lot of problems. So yeah, seriously.
Yeah, and listening is very important. And the second translation that you shared by Kazai was really, because I really love this verse, and I think about it in my marriage all the time. But I hadn't seen the second translation, and I love the idea of leading each other, because I think there's a prevalent modern conception that the man is kind of the captain of the ship. And I've had this debate with other people, and a family can have two leaders or even more with the kids. And I think that's such a helpful way of looking at marriage, where you're not responsible for doing every leadership. It's okay to let the other person lead, and it's good to let the other person lead in different moments. Like, you're going to have different perspectives on different problems. And I'd actually be interested to hear what Caleb thinks about the translations, the different translations, because one says lead and one says win each other through righteousness, which is also, I think, a beautiful translation. So, but I love this verse, so thank you for picking it.
Thank you.
Okay, I guess I'll piggyback off that then. Let me see. Listen, I was actually looking at the last line, because there's something I'd seen, kind of a commentary between the translation I like, but let me see. You said it was in the second translation, it said lead?
Yeah, and each one of you lead the other with righteousness.
Okay, so I think that word is vivenghatu. Let me see what I have terapwali here. I think a lot of the other translations say to like succeed, let me see, yeah, succeed, surpass, win over. Actually, yeah, it was actually the same one I was looking at. Something about kind of, with these translation, everybody has some word in Persian or some sort of different language or Sanskrit or something that they have their own pet theory. But it's something along those lines. It would take me a minute to go grab Hazai's book. So
on that line, I just want to intervene. To supersede, however, you can supersede in a lot of things. When you're having friendship, when you're siblings, you can supersede in success, in wealth, in health, in beauty, in achievements. A lot of things can be in that subcategory. He picked righteousness, which has no feeling to it. It's like, if you're right, you're right. Try to be right. Do the right thing more than the other person. That is the only competition. The other things follow. If you're supposed to be in a relationship that you're supposed to make more money, and that's the right thing because of a lot of limitations, because of your family dynamic, then do that, because that's the right thing. But to become a breadwinner, make more money than your spouse, or actually make money instead of your spouse, for each person is different. And the point is that the message says, try to supersede each other in righteousness. Think about what is right for you and your family dynamic, and go for that. So if there is no subcategory, you decide on that. You're wise enough through your good mind to actually find what is it that is right for this family, so you can supersede your spouse, your partner in that area.
Caleb, which Gothic word are actually referring you in this verse? The annual or aiming? Is that the one?
No, the verb is vivenghatu.
Two. Okay.
Yeah, it looks very complex. It's a desiderative, present, imperative, transitive, or parismapata. Pretty much means a desire, like it's both kind of wanting to, as well as also kind of sort of a command. So it's almost expressing this idea of Zarathustra's kind of calling on the people. He wants them to surpass the other in truth, or in Asha. What I really like about it is the second line, depending on the translation, but I think the most accurate way would be some way of saying that by doing that, by kind of succeeding or surpassing the other person in Asha, that will bring, a good reward. And I really like that idea because I grew up in Christianity where, doing the good thing is supposed to be like a self-sacrifice and you're supposed to suffer in the mortal, in the physical existence so you can have spiritual rewards. But Zarathustra is saying that if you're both working, through Asha, you're trying to surpass the other, not in a competitive sense, but kind of in a competitive sense, that will also bring good rewards to both of you. I like that. It reminds me of one of the lectures that Kitty Irani gave, where I can't remember whether it's him or the interviewer who said that, if you're going to compete about something, compete about, doing good rather than, you put toilet paper the wrong way or you keep leaving the toilet seat up. So
Good example.
yeah.
Navijan, would you like to go next?
Sure, yeah, I can share some thoughts. I also love this verse, and I think, it's timely for me. I have my wedding anniversary next week, and then this was, and I think Nilüfer might be on the call, on the other side of the house right now. But yeah, we had this as our wedding vows, and this is part of our verse, and like we had a Zoroastrian wedding ceremony years ago, and I think what I think is really special about this is not only is it near and dear to our heart, but I think what's unique is kind of the points you mentioned is how different the mental model is from maybe other wedding traditions and ceremonies. And then I think on the point of translations, this is why I love this method of taking 3 different things. I think you can try to find the precise exact one word translation. And, but I think Caleb can testify that like, it's very hard to do this. And like take Asha as an example, it's often more than one meaning. Even if you try to take an English word and try to literally translate it, it often has different meanings in different contexts. So what I love about this is you can actually read between the 3 translations and even out of 4th or 5th, and then start to see what is the common thread, right? What is the common gist of what they're saying? And I've always viewed marriage or any kind of partnership, but especially your life partner, right? Being the person you choose, as being kind of the way in which you enrich your life and you're building a partnership that makes you a better human being, right? And the way that I read this about, I don't know if it's supersede or kind of lead or, again, I think a lot of these things can, if you look at the real gist of it, the way I interpret this is about what is the thing that we're all trying to grow ourselves towards, and that's Asha. Right. And I know when we lose the word Asha and we say righteousness or truth, we start to like lose sight of the multi kind of faceted meaning of that word. But we're all trying to bring ourselves towards Asha. And what, if anything else, and I think this is your point, Mitra and Faribajan, like that's all you need. If you're all thinking about Asha, and if your life partner is aligned with you and also helping you, kind of, and I think his analogy is like, yeah, win each other over, compete essentially, but I think it's more of like a poetic way of saying, use Asha as the barometer and bring yourself together so that you grow together. And that is very powerful, right? And I remember from our wedding vows too, what part of it was actually stopping and asking each of us, do you choose the other as your co-leader of the household, right? And again, very unique, because it wasn't like, hey, one leader, I am the head of the house, as they would say. But it was like, we asked each other, right? And as I think many of you know, like in the Iranian tradition, you especially ask the wife to be like multiple times, right? To kind of make a real big point, especially to say, and I think that's just how I read it, making a special point to say it's their choice, they're choosing, right? And it's not some kind of forced marriage or some kind of imposition. So I think that's, yeah, you're building the foundation of human civilization is usually the first family unit, right? And the marriage builds that. So if we start that unit with partnership and the partnership is through Asha, then that kind of lays the foundation, right? And I think that's kind of the way I look at this. So in a lot of ways, the distinction of which precise word might not matter as much as the gist here.
Thank you so much. That was great. Karuna, would you like to join in? Your opinion?
Well, this is a very interesting topic because for me, I actually don't plan on getting married.
Which is fine.
So, yeah, just me and the chinchillas. It's a good time. So, but what I find interesting about these vows is that, or this verse rather, is that as opposed to vows, it seems very still a strong sense of individualism. It's, even though you're together as life partners, your goal is to still focus on your own path of righteousness. It's, if you're going to compete, like whomever said, if you're going to compete about one thing, compete about righteousness. It's still very much focused on, at least as I see it, the perception of the individual in the marriage. Whereas, I've been to Jewish weddings, I've been to Christian weddings, I've been to Hindu weddings. And of course, I've never been to a Zoroastrian wedding, so I don't know what else goes on there. But the advice is very much, all right, it's you two got to figure it out, as opposed to, nope, you still, well, not nope, but where there's still an individual responsibility for pursuing righteousness. And that's what I get out of this. It's, as opposed to other traditions, that's all about, all right, you're stuck together under God and before man, before the law. It's, this emphasizes, no, you still have your own individual role in this partnership and to you as an individual. So I dig it. I like it.
Good. I'm glad to hear that. Felix, would you like to chime in?
Yeah, thank you so much. I'm very happy to be here, and this is very interesting. I love hearing what people have to say. I think what really strikes me is this idea of like each one of you lead the other. It is kind of a contradiction, but also a call for complementarity, because it means, well, we usually have this idea of leading where one people is leading and the other is following, and that's kind of set. And here what it says is sometimes you'll be leading, sometimes the other person will be leading. And so it means you have to be with somebody that is more righteous than you are, but also somebody where you can also exercise your righteousness. So there's kind of a paradox there, which really calls for a complementarity, where maybe in some area it's okay to be with somebody who's more righteous than you are, and in others you are the one who is supposed to be more righteous. So I was also struck by this this passage, which I think is very interesting, and I guess that's what I have to say.
Well, thank you so much. My new friend Sherry, would you like to, you and your mom, either one, both of you, we would love to hear from you.
Can I go first?
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is our first Zoroastrian meeting. My mom has a lot of background on origins through my grandpa's education with her, growing up in Iran and stuff. And I'm really just enjoying this and enjoying hearing what people say. And it's so nice to be aligned with people who are so open-minded. And the thing that I'm really appreciating about what was read and what we saw on the screen is the ambiguity of it. It is a philosophy versus a step-by-step playbook, thou shalt obey and not question. And, like it didn't have all the things of Christianity, which is, the religion I've been exposed to the most in the US. And the ambiguity of it gives so much freedom to a relationship in a marriage, or really within any family or friendship, because I'm a firm believer that nobody lives on the same earth. no one's experiencing the same reality. Maybe those that you're the most intimately connected with, you might share the same perception of what you're experiencing, but I think those things are rare. And I think in an intimate partnership, when you come together, that partnership and that relationship is also not like anyone else's marriage. You know, there are some marriages where it makes more sense for one to be a dominant leader most of the time and one to follow because it's intrinsic in who they are as a person. And in other relationships, it makes more sense to rely on leading on let the other person lead in their strengths and you lead in your strengths and make up for each other's weaknesses. Or maybe you're both strong at something, you know, maybe you're both strong soccer players and you're going to get on the field and kill it and win that trophy together. Like, who knows? But I love the things that people are saying, the open dialogue that's happening. And you should, it is a competitive, it is a good way to teach competition, to try to be better for the other person. It's gonna put you on this equal effort. You know, if you're both trying to do better for each other, I mean, that's a pretty beautiful life right there. So, you know, it's a great philosophy. I'm really enjoying hearing it. I don't know, Mom, if you have any thoughts, if you want to say anything, or
obviously I was in, because of my age, I was in lots of ceremonies, lots of weddings, especially back home. I have a huge family that I'm so proud of. And but at some point, I see that I used to brag about it. Like if I have a new American friend, I used to say, oh, my family members and cousins and who they married and their grandchildren or whatever, all together are more than 700 members. Like when we have a when we have a wedding, I mean, like at least 700-800 people are showing. Maybe I don't know all of them, but I know I have to respect them because my dad knows all of them. My mom knows because invitation went out by them.
and your Khaled Fazul knows all of them too.
And I just had like few friends to invite, so let's say maximum 10, 15, 20, whatever. But comparing to 800, yeah. But I never heard something so nice like what you said today about righteousness. Because whoever came up with that word was the smartest on the planet. Because you can translate it to so many good things, so many kind of happiness. You know, what makes me happy or what makes other people's happy are different always. We are, you know, our measures in life for happiness is different. And to most of us, it should be that way. But if you follow the righteousness has just one path in general. All the good things that makes you happy. Everything that probably mostly is not material things. You know, sometimes we say something to each other, or the way we accept each other, or with the way we help each other. These are all like a little bit of corner of righteousness. If I keep talking from dawn until midnight, I can't just say everything good about righteousness. So this is a good, really, and makes you curious. The first thing, what is righteousness?
Yeah.
You know, especially when they have time or they are apart from each other, groom and bride, like next day or next month or next 2 years. This is just one word that sits in everybody's heart and brain and soul, you know, and most likely it has something to do with the soul, with inside, with just something that you can give that probably no one else could give it to your partner until now. Acceptance, sharing the goals, helping each other to reach their own like personal or family goals. We all have different relationship goals, and relationship is not just with your partner, is with your partner's friends, with your partner's family, with your partner's way of approaching life in future or now. These are all things. So righteousness, all for it.
Thank you for that elaboration. That is true. The whole thing is that it's a puzzle, and we're supposed to question, and we're supposed to go down this path, and we're supposed to find out, and we're supposed to increase our wisdom. It's all about that. That's why this word is very important. But like somebody said, it's very vague. We are in charge of it. There is no God coming down to telling us what is right for me, what is right for this society, what is right at this moment. The whole burden is on each and every single one of us to find that path and become happy without disturbing this harmony of this universe, without infringing other people's happiness or rights or all of that. So it is an active way of going down the path of righteousness. So with all that, we have a friend from China, QB. I hope I said your name correctly. If I didn't, please correct me. Let's hear about what your experiences have been.
Yeah, first of all, you can call me Sue, because Kewei is a very weird pronunciation in the US, and I believe this pronunciation doesn't exist nowhere except in China. So
okay,
you can just call me
Nice
Sue.
to have you.
It's easier. So basically, it's my second Zoroastrianism meeting, and I find, because I have a strong psychology background, and like I've been like in counseling field for like in 5 years. I've worked in prisons. I've worked with some critical people with critical illness, and I feel like Zoro.
We get it. We know it's hard.
Because I feel like from my knowledge of a psychology field, I think a lot of its basic principles, they sounds to be right. It's really weird, and it's really amazing that all these principles are from like almost 2,000 years before our time. I feel that's really amazing, and okay, I need to say something that pertains to our meeting today. So, so basically, I want to say, like, from my knowledge in my field, I want to say, like, basically, every human beings they want to be more complex in their life. They want to feel a more competence and have good relationship, and they also want to feel they have more autonomy in their life. And in this case, they want to feel they are growing and they have constantly engaged with more new experiences in their daily life. And something that's really interesting is that with the time we spend in our life, which means when we are growing up, we are getting old. It's sad to say this. When we're growing old, we feel like we have fewer and fewer new experience. And in this case, we also feel like we feel like our time is running faster than when we're younger, because we are living more pertaining to our habits, to our established values. That also means that we are failed to change. And in a Zoroastrianism way, we can say we are failing to live in a righteousness way. That means we are failing to make decisions based on the current situation, on the current capacities we have for now. That also means that we are failing to change. And what's really amazing in today's talk is that I see this thing in the restaurant in the wedding, and I get married like in I think I married in 2019, and in China, and in Chinese weddings, they just say like you should be loyalty to your husband and to your wife. And in China, like showing loyalty to your family is very important. And so basically, so after I've spent 2 years in US, and when I get to China, and my wife's family says you've changed a lot. You have really changed a lot, and they say like it seems like you are going out. They are going away from our family, and you know. Oh, so sorry. So what's my point? Okay, so. There are some theories in the psychology field that people like to have new experience that is kind of pertains to their old experience, but not totally new, but they are also new. And while engaging in this new experience, they feel they are happy. So this also pertains to the Zoroastrianism that once you are doing righteousness things, it leads to happiness. And so in marriage, maybe we can say that doing righteousness things and each of us are becoming a somehow different new version of ourselves. And I see you as you are becoming someone that I didn't expect it. And I'm becoming someone new. And this brings us with new experience to each other. And we can say, oh, our life is becoming more interesting, and we have new experiences, and we are living kind of away from like restraint of our old habits and values, and we are becoming better version of human. And this leads to inspirations and also more engaged in our daily life in our daily intimate relationships. And I've just found these thoughts like 2,000 years ago was brilliant.
Yeah, that's the bottom line. He was brilliant. He wasn't, he didn't come from God. He wasn't performing miracles. He was just had a brilliant mind to come up with a logic that still holds. That's all there is to it. When it's a concept that is so logical, you can't go, around it. You just follow it for years and years and millenniums and that. So thank you very much. I felt like I was in a therapy session. So thank you. It was very cool. Nilujan, would you like to add some? Do you hear me?
Sorry, I'm juggling with the kids.
Okay. Can we see your beautiful face?
Yes, give me one.
Juggling?
I'm nursing, so everyone will see more than my face.
That's okay. we would just hear it.
Okay. I want to say thank you so much, Mitra and Fariba June. This is such a great discussion, and obviously it's very sentimental to me because this was a part of our wedding vows. My sister actually recited these vows in English at our wedding, and it's really funny because a lot of our friends were like, that was such a long ceremony. And we were saying, well, there was a lot of intention. We had a lot of ground to cover. There was a lot of details we didn't want to miss. Okay. But I think it's really beautiful to hear how people who, for example, view, let's say the ideas of marriage or partnership, or just the idea that maybe you don't want to get married, I think under like whatever societal norms that we have, the idea of what it means to have individual growth as it relates to this song and this verse, I think is so special and beautiful because it's saying that the more we care about our personal evolution, it's kind of like a marriage with mankind itself, right? And like how our story is like ever evolving. I know that's very like fluffy in a way to say, but it's really looking at the infinite game of life, right?
Right.
If I am taking the time and consideration to reevaluate myself and keep growing and reflecting and challenging my partner or challenging my friends or creating my children to have a mindset where they can learn and grow from us and become even better and stronger, or our neighbors, our community, it can give an infinite growth. And that I think is not this idea of competing for righteousness or goodness. I think the idea is it's like this infinite marathon, and we all want to participate in it.
True. So thank you so much for multitasking. That was great. We appreciate you. Arvin, are you still here with us?
Yes, I just wanted to say what I love about these verses is that it's asking for you yourself to have accountability, because you already have all the tools necessary in order for you to become a good human being. And I think in this regard is asking for you yourself to, because God gave you, or Ahura Mazda gave you, a brain, and gave you eyes, ears, and nose, and all the necessary tools that you need to do in order to have, to be a wise person, to do it according towards, righteousness and good consciousness, as we say. And that's the thing I always loved about Zoroastrianism. And I can't believe that, this thing was even a concept, thousands of years ago. To me, this, I'm grateful that this philosophy is still around to this very day. And I'm very grateful that we still have these thought-provoking poems, if you will, that we still have them, to this day. And I'm very, very proud of that. And I think when I look at these verses, it's just asking you to have your own sense of accountability instead of just relying on some sort of spiritual sort of, woo-woo washy sort of ordeal. So thank you.
Thank you. Beautifully put. Thank you so much. Arvin, would you like to add something?
Arvin, can you hear us?
You're on mute, Arvin, if you're still with us.
He said it was late at night and dark, so.
Okay, let's go to Manija June.
Hello, everyone.
Hi, nice to see you.
Same here. Thank you. Actually, this is the second time I am in the same session for Gatha, because I don't get enough of it. And especially when it comes to marriage ceremony and having new members and new thoughts behind it, I appreciate so much, especially with the deep psychology training and looking at these words and verses and coming up with the psychological thoughts were very impressive to me. And it's so true. 3,700 years ago, coming up with the same thoughts that it's working and for us now. And we're still challenged by it. We're still struggling, especially as a woman, to fight for our rights, for what equality actually means, especially in countries that are led by a lot of conservatism. And they want to stay with their conservative thoughts. And still is a challenge. But this is what is really shining for me, that as human being, as good conscience, we're still fighting for the same rights that Zarathustra was giving to everyone. And how brilliant he was, really, for thinking that way. And we as human beings are still struggling.
Yeah, thank you so much for that insight. That is true. And Zarathustra, 4,000 years ago, focused on the potential that humanity has. He didn't focus on anything else except the fact that we are given this good mind and we have the potential to be the greatest, and we can, and we were. And hopefully one day, one person at a time, each one of us are so responsible for this. One day in the future, hopefully, humanity would be what it's supposed to be, because it can be, instead of being so corrupt and so bad and all these things that are so negative going on. And instead of wishing for it, every single one of us can be that 1%, can be that savior, and to spread the message to others so they can focus on the fact that they can be the best that they can be. They can become righteous. It's something that we are responsible for, we are accountable for, and we can do it. Nobody else can do it for us. There is no God coming down. There is no savior coming to save us. We are it. And the sooner humanity understands that, 1% at a time, the sooner we will reach that phase of life on this planet, on this universe, that we can be all good and we can accomplish the best. So
I do want to add something here. You know how all of us always talk about how Zoroastrianism compared to all the Abrahamic religion is a reflective religion versus the Abrahamic religions being prescriptive. An example of that comes to my mind is like Mitra mentioned in the Christian wedding ceremonies. They say, you know, in richness and health, you know, in sickness and health, and they specify in what acts you should be there for the partner. Versus in this verse, this short verse, Zarathustra just says, be righteous, be the better person in being righteous. So if you're righteous, you don't have to prescribe, be righteous when you're poor and rich. Be righteous when you're sick or healthy. Be righteous in fights. You don't have to specify it because it's reflective. If I'm doing the righteous act, it should be in every aspect of life. It doesn't matter if it is taking out the trash, walking the dog, taking care of the kids, or just bringing in the mail. It doesn't matter. I don't have to specify and itemize what it is I'm being righteous for. And as Sherry mentioned, you know, you balance each other. It's not always the same for every couple. It's always different because every one of us is a unique human being.
well, I hope you all enjoyed this and got something out of it, learned, became a little bit better than an hour ago. I know I did because of hearing you guys, hearing your intelligence